Hey everyone, welcome to the Fortress of Solitude podcast. I'm your host Sergio Pereira, and today I'm joined by the fifth Ninja Turtle, Loïs Qutob. What is up, dude?
What's up, man?
How's it going?
It's going pretty well. What is today? Today's Tuesday. I don't even know what day it is, man. Just living inside all the time, like a shell.
It's like 2020, man. It's like you don't actually realize what day it is, what time it is. It kind of all blends into one.
Yeah.
It kind of feels post-apocalyptic, doesn't it, at the moment? It's like you don't know what's going on.
Which is fitting, given the topic of today's podcast.
Exactly, yeah. And as Loïs has already mentioned now, we are going to be discussing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin. And basically, this is a brand new series it's a mini-series that's come out from IDW Publishing. And it's quite an interesting concept because this idea was originally had by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird already back in the day when they first created the Turtles. A couple of years afterwards, they thought about, you know what, let's set it up in the future like this sort of like Old Man Logan sort of vibe going on. And, set it up where there's just one turtle around, the other three brothers are dead. There's one guy, he's the last Ronin, and, he basically has to avenge his family and, protect the city. And yeah, I must say, like, this book has been coming for quite a while. It's received a couple of delays this year, but it's finally here. And I mean, we obviously got a pre-release copy to read. And Loïs, I got to ask you, man, what was your first impression of this book? Issue 1.
So I never, and to this point, this is the first Ninja Turtles comic I've ever read, right?
No way.
First.
Seriously?
Ever, right? And
wow. Okay.
I watched the Ninja Turtles as a kid, and then I played the video games on the NES, and I loved it. And for some reason, I just, it wasn't because I didn't enjoy the Ninja Turtles, I just was never exposed to comic books in general. And so, jumping into this, it was quite wild because the theme was so grown up in a way, for Ninja Turtles. It wasn't campy, it wasn't kiddie, but it was using the characters that I know from my childhood. So it's almost like they've grown up with me, and it was this weird introduction back, and I loved it. A little bit like, not disturbing, but kind of like, I don't know if you, maybe disturbing is the right word, like at certain points, with what happens, but I loved it, really. It was mature, it's gripping, and I'm super keen to see what happens in the next one.
Cool, man. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you mentioned you've never read a Ninja Turtles comic. I mean, it's kind of where it started, and I mean, I get it. It's like, sometimes you kind of go back to Ninja Turtles, and I think a lot of people remember it's like, the classic animated show, and especially like as you say, the NES game or the arcade game. That's a lot of people's first introduction to the Turtles. But Eastman and Laird created the comic book for Mirage, like, back in the day in the early 80s. And it was significantly different from what we know. I mean, the Turtles were always dark, and it was like, it leaned more towards like Frank Miller sort of vibes. Yes, there was a little bit of humor there that you could pick up on, but it was super dark. And I always find that it was always like a lot more different. You looked at the Turtles like, this animated series, and it was, it was bright and it was funny, and, it was all about pizza and, all the jokes and these like over the top characters. And then you'd go to the comic books, and the characters would still be over the top, but it was a lot darker, it was like, dealing with some mature topics. And I always found that it was a bit of a struggle for like, with the Ninja Turtles franchise in general, to try and, respect the source material effectively and, blend what came from the original with what was obviously popular, what really blew up in terms of popular culture.
Yeah.
And I found that actually they managed to succeed in the latest IDW TMNT run, which was done by Eastman and Tom Waltz.
Yeah. And
with a couple other artists. And it was really, for the first time ever, I felt like they managed to gel everything together and to say, all right, this is the Ninja Turtles, like the best way we envision it. That, these guys are still funny. There's still obviously a lot of rich history there, and we've got all these wild characters as well. But how can we bring this together? And I still maintain, and I mean, it's an article I wrote for Fortress a couple months ago as well, that it's one of the best comic book runs around. I mean, it's still going now into the hundreds, and it is really so good because they've just managed to capture this tone, and they've managed to evolve the stories as well. I mean, at one stage, Splinter was a leader of the Foot Clan as well. We've seen like everything in it, and it's so good. And this is why when I heard about, The Last Ronin, I was excited because I knew it was Eastman and Laird's original story. Tom Waltz was coming back as a writer, and then obviously they had the art from Esau and Isaac Escorza, and the colors from Luis Antonio Delgado. I thought, this is a really great team.
Stunning.
And I remember seeing some sample pages and thinking, wow, this looks really good, but is it going to be too dark? Is it not going to lean enough into the lore? Is it going to be completely different? And I found that, at the same time, while obviously it takes a leap forward, this is the Turtles in the future. This is Manhattan in years from now, where Oroku Hiroto is master of the Foot Clan, and he's basically Karai's son and the Shredder's grandson. And this Foot Clan is all, they're robotic and they're like advanced.
Yeah.
And, like New York is under the rule of the Foot Clan. I'm thinking, that's clever. That's pretty cool because, we haven't really seen that yet, where like basically, the bad guys all take over sort of like that, in that sense. And we've always seen Krang and stuff with other planets, but I found that was really, really cool how they did that. And now, there's just one turtle on his own effectively. And for me, I just thought that was really well done in the sense that, it kind of gives a feeling of isolation, but he's also like, you get that samurai mentality as well from him that, he kind of knows that this is the end.
Yeah.
If he gets caught, it's like, he basically he needs to give up his life, and it's kind of sad in a bit.
It is,
yeah.
It's deep, man. It's super deep from the beginning. The way it's drawn. Looking on this sort of this big city that he's approaching, just one lone turtle. It looks overwhelming, and it almost looks like, you're not going to come back from this kind of thing. That's the vibe I got from the start.
Yeah, it is exactly like that. And I think, where you've got those, like, at the same time, he feels that he's not alone because he's speaking to the voices of, his brothers.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it's a bit sad at the same time because it's kind of like, here's someone obviously who's not let go. He's got a tragedy. Obviously Splinter's gone as well. His brothers are gone, and he's just on his own. And I find that for me was a thing that, really gripped me. I was like, it kind of goes to show how deep the relationship is, like between the four brothers. Like, all of them have got their own unique personalities.
Right.
Obviously, you got Donatello, he's the brains, and, he's a little bit geeky and more, and less serious than the others. You've got Leonardo's obviously that, the leader and, very stern and all about the rules. Michelangelo is a fun guy and partying around all the time. And then, Raphael is obviously a bit, let's say, a little bit gruffer and a little bit, more. Yeah, the rebel. And you know what? They're all different, but they still rely on each other so much. And they've got this like brotherly bond that, if one of them is gone, or like in this case, if three of them are gone, you still feel the loss. It's like, they are still so tight. And I think it's like that sort of aspect of family that I came across that, someone is lost without them. He's obviously trying to honor his brothers, but he still feels lost without them. He needs their voices to kind of tell him what to do.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really well done for me. Because, it just, the way it sets it up, the first issue is just like, we introduced to this world. There's not really a lot happening besides, obviously the Last Ronin, trying to, challenge, Oroku to a fight, effectively. But, and, obviously introduces the whole aspect of this world and, let's call it the rules, of this new world that they're building. But I just thought it was done so well that, we get inside this character's head.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt the same way.
No, I did. When you were talking about their different personalities, it's like the biggest part of each of their personalities is each other. They form sort of bits of one. And, he's blamed Oroku for the death of his family, which was... they mentioned a decade ago, so I don't know if they're going to revisit how that happened or what happened. But I think them always being in his head the whole time, like as his little conscience kind of, it's like I don't think he can envision a world where he doesn't have them as a part of him, so he needs to keep speaking to them. It's so natural that like, they say things that he could imagine what they're going to say, at any given point. And he's talking back and forth. So he never feels like he's alone, because I think that's not something that's a part of them. They're not used to being alone. So yeah, man, like I said, it's a mature take, and it's super gripping.
And obviously, we're obviously discussing what we really enjoyed about it. Was there anything that you found that could have been done better, or that could have been, executed differently?
Look, I dig the way the entire place looks. I like the vibe of it. I like the black bandana around his eyes. Honestly, I don't think there was anything that stood out as like not cool to me. I mean, the action sequences were super cool. It was like a little bit bloody, a little bit like gritty. Yeah, I think it's too early now for myself to pick something that I'm not too happy with. What about you?
For me, I thought it was a really, really solid, I mean, if not fantastic beginning, first issue. I thought that it opened up a lot of the story that I did not expect it to go into, a lot of things. And I mean, there was also something which I picked up on the second read, which is something I didn't pick up in the beginning. There's that girl who the Last Ronin steals her motorcycle.
Yes.
And they call her Jones, and I didn't figure it out. I didn't click first. This is Casey Jones' daughter.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, she's the one who follows him into the sewers. And I was like, but hang on, because then you see April at the end. So I'm like, is that Casey Jones and April's daughter? Is that the next thing that's coming?
Maybe because she was the last person to see the turtle, kind of dying almost, like
exactly,
badly injured underground, and then all of a sudden waking up to April. So that does make sense.
So that was something I didn't pick up at first, and I was like, oh, that was pretty cool. So I think there are like a few little things that you can go back and read about. Like, you could pick up, certain little scenes that, on the first read, you might not necessarily pick up on a lot of it, and then it starts revealing a lot more.
Yeah,
but I actually,
what I saw as well, like little Easter egg kind of was, there was that part near the end where he sort of blacked out and he dreams as though he's back in the sewer with his brothers again. And they're all just chatting to each other. And if you look on the top right, there's a little box of like Casey stuff, like do not touch, like little things like that. I thought was really cool, little attention to detail.
No, I think it was really well done, because I know that this specific issue suffered a few delays because they went back and they reworked some of the story, because obviously the main story was conceived, like decades ago with Laird and Eastman. And they've obviously gone back and they've, tweaked things and they've modernized it, for like, a newer generation versus what they would have done in the like late 80s or early 90s, whenever they had the idea. I'm not entirely sure at the moment. And I think it's been done really, really well. Like the way they executed things and the way they introduced these characters, and like it just felt, really fresh. And I think, for me, the one thing that, because I wasn't certain about it, and I mean, just to, obviously let people know there's a spoiler coming. So we just need to tell you that we will be discussing the identity of sorry, it's a little bit late, but I mean, we haven't really given away much yet, of the Last Ronin's identity. And I think that for me, throughout the entire issue, I was super excited about that because I had my own theories. And I mean, I wrote an article on Fortress about who it was, and and I was just like, I was super excited to find out, like, okay, was I right? Was I right? Or, and I was just looking for little details throughout, like, in terms of, the speech, in terms of, the weapons he leaned towards. Because I know that he was using all the weapons, but and especially the dream sequence that you said towards the end, where you spot the other brothers. And obviously, you don't see the color of the bandanas. They're not wearing bandanas. But it was there that I managed to do the process of elimination of who the Last Ronin wasn't. So there, I was like, oh, okay, I think I figured it out. And then suddenly, like, boom, last page, just like, there it is.
Say it,
So, I mean, obviously now, if you guys don't want to know who the Last Ronin is, I suggest that, you probably fast forward just to the end, just so we can say goodbye to you. Because we don't want to be the sort of people that are just like, spoilers, whatever. So, but so this is your final warning. If you don't want to hear who the Last Ronin is, leave now. Even though I know Jared, our editor's going to hate us for saying this because, of listening views. Like, just leave now. Okay. Cool. So now that's your warning. So now the Last Ronin is identified as
April.
Michelangelo. Come on. Michelangelo.
Mikey. That was a shock. That was an absolute shock.
I guess it, dude. I was so happy that I got it right. Like, like most of the times when things happen, you kind of always think, oh, cool, I'm writing about this. I'm going to be smart. I'm going to guess it. And you're always wrong. That's just a fact. And I was just super happy that I got it right, because I remember thinking about it, and I remember like discussing with a couple of people and doing like a process of elimination.
Right.
And thinking about, all right, who would it actually be? Raphael was way too obvious.
Yeah.
Because Raphael is a loner. We've seen him being a loner. We've seen him, taking on other identities, to show that, he's seeking vengeance. I was
he's built for revenge.
Yes, exactly. It's too obvious. That's the thing. Then Donatello, I thought to myself, okay, he was a possibility.
Yeah.
But I thought, Donatello is not really, the vengeful type. And I think that if he was looking for revenge, you would see a lot more futuristic examples of it.
Yeah.
You would see Donatello as, like he'd probably been a machine by now. Like, let's be honest. He'd probably become like a Robo-Turtle or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, it's between Leonardo and Michelangelo.
Yeah.
Now, Leonardo is close to his brothers, but I think, that like leadership quality of his, would he become a Last Ronin, or would he perhaps build his own new team? Like, I just didn't get the vibe that it was going to be Leonardo for some reason. So I leaned towards, I said, you know what? Someone who hasn't had an arc that shows what they would be like without their brothers is actually Michelangelo, because you can tell that that's the sort of dude that if he loses his brothers, it's going to devastate him.
Yeah, it transforms him, man, because he's the glue that holds them together. He's the good times, he's the light vibes, and I think when any of the three are not getting along, sort of he quells the tension. And so for him to now have that sort of transformation of vibe, like he's still himself, but been through the most, you see what that does to a character. And I think that was definitely the most genius of text to go for is Michelangelo.
I mean that's the thing. You nailed it there. It's like he is the glue that keeps the team together, and for me, it's like it makes sense. Like, okay, if he loses everything, what will happen to him? I mean, he's a guy that as you say, is the good times. It's happy-go-lucky, but it will transform him, and it makes more sense. Kind of Michelangelo becomes Rambo here, effectively.
Yeah,
And I mean, I just thought that it was genius. Like, okay, this is the one turtle that we haven't actually looked at and said, all right, what would happen to him if he loses everything? He loses Splinter. He loses the rest of them. And I mean, how will he cope? How will he fare against, the Foot Clan? And I always think, we've underestimated Michelangelo a lot. I think, because Raphael is the brawler. Everyone knows that Raphael's a brawler. If you get into a fight, he's the one you want on your side.
Yeah.
Leonardo's the leader. He's a tactician.
He's
disciplined.
He's a mastermind. Yeah.
Yes, he's disciplined, and he knows we've got to go to battle. Then you've got Donatello, who's like the brains, and you're like, okay, he'll get himself out of anything, with his MacGyver-like qualities.
Yeah.
And then you've got Michelangelo. Everybody's like thinks, fun-loving dude, just wants to eat pizza and chill on the couch.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, well, we've underestimated him, because here's a guy who's actually, he's got ninja skills. He's trained with his brothers. He probably has the best qualities of all of them, in a way. Because at the same time, it's like, he can still fight. Maybe he's not the best fighter like Raphael, but he can still fight. Leadership quality is he displays it differently. He's not a leader in the sense of Leonardo, of like telling everyone what to do.
Yeah.
But he can, like bring everyone together. That's a quality that not a lot of people have. And at the same time, it's like maybe he doesn't have the intelligence of Donatello in terms of like building machines, but he's got a certain intelligence of like understanding people and understanding what people need to hear to move them ahead. And he's got all those qualities. So at the end of the day, he could actually be, the best of everyone. Yeah. In one.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And with him, going through so much, and you can see how he looks, you can see, not just age, but also, what his experience has done to him. Even, some of the other characters, I mean, not that we've seen many, but we've seen April, and she looks like she's gone through the ringer a little bit as well, a little bit, war scarred. And I'm so excited to see, they definitely have to dive into the history a little bit now that those two are together again, Very keen to see where that all came from.
And I think the most important thing is that now with April around, I mean, we obviously don't know the dynamics if they just lost contact, or we thought April was dead, or what happened. I mean, that's something that will be revealed. But I think now he realizes he's not alone. He's got someone else.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the core of the story. It's like, you lost your brothers. He feels alone. Doesn't have Master Splinter. He feels like he's got no one. He's just himself. He's just like a lone wolf. And I think that with April now, it'll show him that, he's not alone. And maybe it'll bring him back to being the Michelangelo of old. Maybe that'll be what he requires.
Yeah, at least just a glimpse. I think now that it's revealed, people will be so interested to see if they're going to be able to get a glimpse of something they recognize within him. Because up till that point, it wasn't super obvious at all.
Yeah. No, it's true. And I mean, that's the thing. And I think that also, if you look back at the main series now, again, spoilers if no one's read it, but I mean, this was like 6 months ago, so it's your own fault. And Splinter's gone in the main series. You know,
Okay.
the brothers now, they're continuing, you know, they continue like teaching, you know, other mutants, you know, the art of martial arts and, you know, to be better and all of that. And you can see how they've relied on each other a lot. You know, they've leaned on each other. Like, yes, it's devastated them. They lost their father, but at the same time, you know, they still have each other and they recognize that. So you can just imagine what a blow it is for Michelangelo to just not have anyone.
Yeah.
You know, you lose Splinter and then you lose your brothers and then you feel alone in this world. And it's like, I think that's a theme. It just grabbed me a lot of it, where I just thought, you know, I really feel sad for this character. And like, the more I think about it, the more I go back, especially because it's Mikey.
Yeah.
You know, you're just like, oh man, Mikey, why does Mikey have to
deserve it, dude?
Yeah, Mikey deserves everything. I mean, come on, like, you know, you just know that a guy, he just wants to chill and eat nachos and pizza and, you know, and not watch cartoons with you. And it's like, you just feel sad for him.
And then you get someone trying to commit seppuku, bro. And you're like, nah, dude, that's too much.
Yeah, it was super sad. And I was just like, when I saw that, it's just like, it reminded me of, like, you know, the tears I got when Splinter left as well. You know, like in the main series, I was like, oh man, this is deep.
I feel like I have to read that main series. After the podcast, I'll ask you more about it.
Dude, like, seriously, I cannot recommend it highly enough.
Okay.
The way that it's been done, and I mean, this run has been solid. The thing is, you know, we've discussed it before. Comic book continuity means nothing. You know, like, I mean, if Marvel vs. DC, have a Crisis on Infinite Events, have a Civil War, reboot.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it reminds me of your NES. It overheats, just push the reboot button. It's fine.
It's sorted.
Yeah, and what they've done here is that they've actually said, you know what, we're going to create a cohesive story. It's going to have structure. It's going to run. Like, obviously, you've got, like, your mini little arcs that run for 6 issues or whatever.
Yeah.
Your main, like, you know, storylines. But the overall storyline, it's just been, you know, it's been planned so properly and done so well that everything makes sense, that everything ties together, that you look at this like, oh, this is continuity. This is what real continuity is.
Yeah.
And the way it's just been done is that, you know, this is the focus. This is the main series. Yes, there are, like, obviously the micro series they have going on and some solo books as well. But this is your core focus. Focus on this. This is all you need to read to stay up to date. And I think that's where it, like, actually succeeds, to be honest, because I think with the likes of Marvel and DC, you have too many books that are connected. One delay derails everything.
Yeah, that's why I don't read most comics. Not because I don't like them. I just don't know what the hell's going on, and, like, trying to figure it out is just, like, ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean, I think with this, the Turtles especially, it's just managed to create a cohesive storyline. It's easy to follow. You start in issue 1, you can read up to issue 100 and something, and you know what? It'll make sense to you every step of the way. And now with The Last Ronin, at the same time, you can pick it up without reading those books.
Yeah.
But you can also understand where it could tie in at the same time. But it doesn't, like, contradict any sort of storyline here. It's just like, you know what? This can stand on its own. It's fine. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. You know, this is set in the future, so this is a different time. And I think that's what works. It's just like, you know, anyone can pick it up.
Yeah.
And I know that everyone has been excited about it. I mean, I even heard rumors that they were planning some series as well, and that The Last Ronin might be the influence for a series, I think, for Netflix.
That's what I was thinking. This would be brilliant for a series.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I saw that rumor somewhere. I went looking for it again the other day, and I didn't find anything about it. So I don't know if it was just one of those little pesky Twitter rumors that, you know, somebody puts it out there and says, "Hey, this is a cool idea," and I could be mistaken. Like, I mean, I'm gonna own it here, but it was a cool idea. I thought to myself, you know, after reading this book, I was like, this would actually make a really cool, you know, sort of CG animated series.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll be on board. But yeah, I mean, The Last Ronin was just, it was amazing, man, and I can't wait for issue 2.
Yeah. When is it officially releasing? It's today? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow is Wednesday the 28th of October from IDW. Pick it up. Nag your comic book stores. Check out Comixology. Get it wherever you can from, because this is one book that you don't want to miss, and you need to check out the variant covers. There's tons of them.
So we got to see so many.
Yeah. It's something that I cannot recommend enough. Like, seriously, if you're thinking about picking up Batman the 3 Jokers issue 3, scrap that order and get TMNT The Last Ronin. I promise you, you will not regret it. It is a great, great book. But now, guys, it's time to hear from you. And you got to let us know. Have you picked up The Last Ronin yet? What did you think of it? So, come on, let us know. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and also check out the website for some more cool content. Until next time, see ya.
Bye.